Sup, everybody? This is KARAK with ACG, and let's talk about the Sony State of Play that just was shown. We got to see Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Enhanced Edition for the PS VR2, Hogwarts Legacy, and some of the exclusive mission, as well as other things like God of War and a God of War controller, like a Dragon remake from the original, what was that? I think that was the original Yakuza 3, as well as a couple others. I want to know what you guys think of this. Rise of the Ronin probably looked to be one of the best games. It was surprisingly enough 2024 on its release date there. Now that is a long ways out, a little bit worrisome, simply because what that actually showed is that there wasn't a lot of games coming in the interim. This is a time where State of Play could have probably showed some excellent stuff. They did show God of War, which does look phenomenal. Of course, it's God of War, and they did once again confirm that that is releasing this year. I think that solidly locks that game off as being a title that will come this year. They didn't really need to do that, but they did. That'll be the second confirmation for that particular date. But they also showed some things that I was not expecting. For example, Pacific Drive, which looked like Ghostbusters, Alan Wake, and Stalker mixed together, except you're driving around the car smashing into creatures in a place called the Olympic Exclusion Zone. This is the first time I've heard of this game. Maybe other people have heard of it before. I haven't. It's got a bit of a almost Borderlands kind of graphic style. You could actually say a little bit more Telltale now that I think about it. It's not necessarily incredibly detailed, but they have some good shadow work, some good lighting work, and I liked a lot of the design that I saw. When it comes to the actual event as a whole, I want to know what you guys think of the event. One that I'm very excited for is Tekken 8. We did get to see some of that in this. I really do enjoy the Tekken titles. I don't enjoy them as much as, say, a Virtual Fighter or something along those lines, but I think is a good replacement for that. Tekken has always been quite enjoyable, and I know a lot of people love number 7. We also got to see the PSVR 2 version of Demio, which is that D&D RPG dungeon crawler. That's by Resolution Games, and it's one of those titles that really does show you what VR can do. It brings that Dungeon and Dragons kind of style gameplay sort of to your home, especially if you're a miniatures fan versus Theater of the Mind Dungeon and Dragons. I'd like to know what you guys think of that. I also thought Like a Dragon did look good. I talked about that at starting this video. It looks interesting to me. It is a remake, and it's unfortunately using Unreal 4, which I did already see some people bringing up that the faces and some other particular spots of that game looked a little rough. We'll have to see how it looks. You never quite know where a lot of these titles are going to really land. And one that I was not expecting, I want to know what you guys think, is that Sin Duality, which is a main character along with a mech. And in many ways, if you look at it, they almost treated the mech like a pet. I'm going to have to see exactly how this plays out. It's a post-apocalyptic world. You've got this mech. You're out there looking for items and avoiding the rain. I want to know exactly what that means. Is the thing's going to rust or something? Maybe I missed that in the trailer. But that actually looks sort of interesting. It definitely looked a little bit cumbersome. But again, we don't know exactly how all these are going to come up. And it's something with the State of Play. It's something with Microsoft's events and Nintendo events that sometimes we see footage that's a little bit rough and maybe a month or two out. Not making excuses. It may turn out to be that rough. But at least for me, I do like the idea of any mech kind of game. So I'm going to be there. Another one I'm going to check out is Stellar Blade. That was Project Eve originally. They've changed that name. Futuristic, a little bit of even Final Fantasy kind of action in it in some places. But then as it broke out and you really got to see more of the game, that thing looked in many ways like a game that was originally on the Xbox, and then I think there was a remaster, which was Phantom Dust. There was something about that game and some of the way that the combat rolled out that really reminded me of that older title. So I'm excited to see that. Stellar Blade, that one's coming out next year, it sounds like, and it is a PS5 console exclusive as well. Sometimes you'll get these titles where you don't really know if it's a console exclusive or it's timed. That one, they basically stated is for sure just a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. That could, of course, change at any time, but they were sort of clear on some of these titles. And what was particularly clear with this one is the mixture of the different feels. Not only did I feel a little bit like it was Phantom Dust, but there were even times where it felt a little bit like there were moments of Bayonetta in there. It looks like not necessarily a hodgepodge, but a mixture of different things. I'd like to know what you guys thought of that game in particular, because it did grab my eye. But the one I really want to dive into is Rise of the Ronin. Now, I talked about this right at the starting, 2024. Ignore that just for a second. Here's what they state about this. It's the darkest before the dawn. In Rise of the Ronin, you'll explore an evolving world as you fight to forge a new era for Japan. You're a Ronin, a warrior free from all masters and bonds, and as your destiny intertwines with story characters, take part in an immersive, combat-focused action experience. For a game that is combat-focused, they did show a lot of cutscenes and moments where it did look like an RPG. What fascinated me right from the get-go is just the overall look of everything. It is true they did say some of it's cinematic, some of it was in real time, but there was that part where the character leaps off of the cliff and sprouts those wings, and I was like, that could be awesome. Also, in a way, it looks like they possibly will end up beating Ubisoft's title. Now, that's just if it's delayed, but I have a feeling some of the stuff in Ubisoft's event, we'll just sort of have to see how those dates roll out. But Japanese samurai stuff, or Ronin, or ninjas, are a big deal right now. You've got Ghost 2, you've got Ubisoft's title, and now you have Rise of the Ronin, all of them, and that's just what we know of. There could possibly be a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh title out there that's within this particular genre. It's one of my favorite ones, so I'm actually very excited to see how all of these pan out. Now, I know a lot of people look at these games and they think, oh, this one looks farther along than another. You should certainly look at Rise and see that. In the good parts, that's great because it's 2024 and it already looks that good in some sections. There's some FPS drops and stuff, but you really do have to understand how all this comes about. It's the same stuff I say about Microsoft or Nintendo's when you look at their events and how they do all this kind of stuff, because I see that brought up a lot. We just won't know, right? Some things could be downgraded, some things could be upgraded, but I was excited for that one in particular because that really brings this sort of triple attack into that particular genre, which is one of my favorites. Now, one thing I don't necessarily like, you guys know I'm just not a fan of this, God of War Ragnarok DualSense controller. These kind of things I've always felt are just absolutely crass. I get it, it's got a different color and a sticker on it. Hey, I'm glad you guys may like it if you do, but it's this kind of stuff that I always feel is incredibly overpriced for the consumer, and regardless, there are other ways to probably get something quite close to that for, well, $3 for a sticker. But if you like those kind of things, I think that's awesome, and I hope you were happy with what you saw. They did sort of hint that that was the last thing, but then they did drop the new God of War trailer. Now, the reason why I want to talk about God of War in particular is because my man, Richard Schiff from West Wing, is going to be in God of War. I can't wait. I love him as a voice actor. He has done incredible stuff in almost every TV show I've ever seen him in. I've absolutely loved that guy and his way of talking. Just even when it comes to West Wing, which is what he was in, as well as some other ones, he's in The Good Doctor as well. So those are things that I'm excited to actually see when it comes to the voice actors, because I already know most of those voice actors in God of War will be incredible already. We also saw some large action moments. I want to know what you guys think of God of War in particular, because what I saw was exactly what I expected, which was sort of God of War 1.5. Now, I would have loved to have seen it really blasted out of the park, but I do think it's going to take a while for them to take advantage of the PlayStation 5. What I saw looked great, though, and I'm a huge God of War fan. I think the original was just a spectacular game on the PlayStation series, so I can't wait to actually jump into 5. But I want to know what you guys think of these. I probably missed one, maybe. If I did, feel free to point it out in the comments, talk about it. I want to know what you guys think of these. Peace out. If you like the video, subscribe.